Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm in the process of rebuilding my Series 2A Land Rover, and the time has come to start cleaning up and sorting out the engine. It came to me looking like this. I then proceeded to strip all the ancillaries off it and then just kind of left it. So it's time to give it a repaint, clean up all the parts and get them bolted back on. Enjoy. So I really want to try and get a little bit of this engine put back together. So the plan is to get a distributor back in, the fuel pump back in, the oil pump back in, and also on the other side I need to get the manifold back in. But before I can do any of this, all these need to come out and the surfaces need to be cleaned up and all the gaskets scraped off here. I've ordered a whole load of gaskets for these and just waiting for them to come. The distributor, I found an old 25D distributor which I'm gonna clean up and put back in, and hopefully that's all right. The plan with that would be to maybe get it restored by the distributor doctor at a later date. The carb was a cheap Zenith copy that's on it, but I'm also going to be sending off an original Zenith 36 carb to the carburetor exchange to get restored fully. So the first thing I need to do is drain the oil so that I can take off this oil cooler return. This is going to be blanked off as I'm removing the whole oil cooler system from the engine. I have checked the dipstick and it says there's no oil in, but there's bound to still be some in the bottom here. Right, let's get this oil cooler pipe off. There we go. So, I'm having a bit of trouble finding this nut. It's supposed to be a 9/16 thread size, but they're just not very easy to get hold of. So that's my next task. Find something to plug this, or I should say, plug that. Oh. So that's the starter motor off. I'll probably put 12 volts to it just to make sure it's turning, but I've no reason to believe it's not, but you just never know. But I'm gonna clean it up and give it a paint. You can see the flywheel in there, and that gives us access to get this painted. You can see the colour it was, and this is the paint that I did on it last year, but it's rusted through again, so I need to clean this up and give it another coat of paint. I just had a few more bits to take off before I could start cleaning and painting. Everything's off the engine now, so I'm giving it a full degreasing, then a quick wash down with some clean water. So it's looking a lot better now that I've given it a clean off. So it's been degreased and washed down. You can still see there's plenty of rusty spots coming through there. So the plan is to put some rust treatment on it and give it another coat of paint. I've just been having a quick test fit of the alternator there to see how that's going to go. So I need to take that back off, take all these manifold nuts and bolts studs out. On the other side you can see how it looks there as well. So take this out, give it all a good paint and leave that to dry. Then I can start cleaning up the gasket surfaces and start putting some bits back on it. So I'm using Frost's Metal Prep metal etching rust neutralizer. So all I need to do is brush this over the engine and keep it wet for the next 20 minutes. Just keep applying it for 20 minutes and then wash it off, and that should help with the rust coming through before I paint it the blue enamel. Okay, so that's that done. I've washed it down, and it's just going to sit here now for an hour or so and dry off in the warm air. That means I can now get the blue duck egg enamel paint and engine paint and give it a final coat. So I'm using Paintman Engine Blue 170. Alright, so there we go, that's it finished. It's been stood now for 3 or 4 hours, still a little bit tacky so I won't touch it, but it definitely looks better. Let's just hope it lasts and stays like that. So I'm looking forward to getting these surfaces cleaned up and start bolting on some of the ancillaries. Let's have a quick look at the other side. Again, there we go. It's not perfect, but not too bad. Just had to hold it. So I've removed the engine mount from this side and painted all this and the under here as well. I'm going to put new mounts under there. To do that, I've just jacked the engine. You can see the engine's jacked up under the 2 nuts off the bolts, and we're going to replace that now. So this is the old engine mount that's come off. It's hard to say what kind of condition it's in because it's stood for so many years. It might be alright, but I just didn't want to risk it. I wanted to get genuine parts as well because I know that the cheap ones for £3 or £4 are really poor quality. But to replace this one engine mount as a genuine would be £27. So I decided instead to replace it with this one, which is a genuine rubber but for a diesel engine, for the diesel 2.25, and these are only £4 each or £4 or £5 each, and that's a genuine part. So I'm going to try that. I'm not sure if it's going to make it harder or softer, but at least it's a genuine part. And if it's no good, if I think it's too much vibrations, I can always swap it out. So the next job is to put this into here. Eventually, after a lot of fiddling about, I managed to get that in. It's sitting nice and flat now. The trick is when you're putting these back in, if you ever come to do them, don't jack it up too high because it makes it harder to get it in. So jack it, keep it low, slide it in first, get this thread through the top, then you can jack it up to put the bottom thread through the bottom. Right, so I've put these fan belts on and adjusted the alternator out. There's a bit of a problem. The original belts were 10.50 in length and they were too short to get on here. I couldn't get this to come out far enough to get the belts on. So I've purchased some 1100 length belts, and I think they're slightly too long now because if you look at the gap between the alternator and the chassis, it's I can get a finger in there, but I'm not sure how much movement I'm going to get. And worse still, if you look under here, it's actually almost touching the engine bracket. So a little bit more work to do here. I'm going to have to try and source some slightly shorter belts, I think, or try and find a slightly smaller diameter pulley for that. So I've come up with a temporary solution for this 9/16 oil return bolt that goes to the sump on the old military Land Rovers. These are impossible to find a proper blanking plug. As you can see, this one's got a hole there for the oil to feed through into a banjo onto here. So I thought the easiest way would just be to buy a 9/16 bolt like this. That's harder than you think to do. I just couldn't find a one anywhere. So what I've ended up doing was finding a longer one, but it's actually, the thread only comes to here. It was a longer thread, so I put this nut on, chopped it off and wound it off so that I knew that this would go back into the sump thread without this getting damaged when I sawed through it. And the bodge really for now is just putting something over here, and this is the correct copper washer that goes in there, and I'm going to use a bit of Loctite hydraulic sealant on this to hopefully stop it from leaking. These are crush tubes, so I'm going to turn it in so that these crush a little bit to get it nice and tight. So we'll see how that goes. There we go. It sticks out a bit, you can see that, but like I said, it's just a temporary solution for now. Once I get it all up and running, I'll change that for something a bit more permanent. Okay, so that's this stage done now. Let's just do a quick recap of what I did there. So all of the ancillaries were stripped off the engine. Everything has been cleaned up and painted. So I've done the fan, I've done all these caps here, the nuts and bolts on the top here. I've done the starter motor down here. We're getting this set up, new bracket on here, new belts on. So that's all done. We put new engine mounts in, all nicely fastened in on this side. We didn't bother with that side because it looked in really good condition. And on the other side, I cleaned the distributor up. This is all new gaskets. This come off, it was all degreased. Everything's been degreased and clean. There's no oil or grime anywhere now. They're not looking amazing, but they are clean. So that's back on. We've got all this done. The engine mounts are fastened in. Need a new oil sender on this. I've got this done, new filters in ready, and the bolt down there, which I think you can see, that seems to be all right. So that's pretty much it. So the next thing to do under here will be getting a new coil, spark plugs, piping for the fuel pipe, get that set up, carburetor cleaned, sorted and put on to the other side, and we'll run a few cables and try and get it turning over and see what happens. I'm not going to be trying to sort all this electrics out because it's way too much to do. I just want to get the engine running and just have a listen to it, and that's going to be quite a defining moment. There we go, that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed that. If you did, don't forget to hit subscribe, hit the like, leave a comment, and hopefully in the next video we're going to be doing the doors and getting that finished, and in the next video after that it'll be back into the engine bay to actually get it running. So that should be a really interesting video because the car's never run for decades, I'm led to believe. Anyway, if you want to watch any of the other videos, you can click on the links on either side here, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers guys.